Hey, party people! Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week on the show, I am joined by Johnathon Grach for a playthrough of his new game, Cut to the Chase, one of the role-playing games featured in the UNI two-player games anthology. Cut to the Chase is a game about, well, chases. It is specifically a fun, lightweight, easy-to-pick-up game about a hunter and their prey locked in pursuit until an inevitable clash. It can be played in any setting, genre, system. It is a great, fun little game that I really, really enjoyed, and I think that you should check it out. UNI is an anthology that I've mentioned before on the show, put together by friend of the show, Lucian Kahn, who designed A Dead Friend. It is a collection of 14 different two-player role-playing games, some of which we've played on the show before, some of which we will play in the future. It is an awesome anthology with some of the proceeds going to charity. I cannot recommend you pick up this anthology enough if you enjoy two-player role-playing games, which I have a gut feeling if you're listening to me say these words, you just might. You should pick it up. You can find more information about UNI and about Cut to the Chase in the show notes. Before we dive in, I have a really big announcement that I'm very excited about. On January 27th, that's in just a few weeks, Party of One will be hosting another live show as part of the Everything is Awesome Headstrong Comedy Festival. We will be part of a killer lineup of shows at Thirsty Dice, the board game cafe in Philadelphia. We are a part of an all-actual play lineup, including Party of One, Pod of Love, Heart Points, A Quest for Magic and Steel, Refugees of Esmeralda, and Full Belly Laughs. It's going to be a great lineup of shows that I am beyond excited about. I really hope you'll make it out to Thirsty Dice. That's January 27th, 2019. It's going to be a killer day of shows that raises money for a really good cause. The Headstrong Foundation improves the lives of people dealing with cancer. If you can't make it to the show in person, I hope you'll head to bit.ly/headstrongfest and consider making a donation. We're raising money for a good cause with some great live shows. I could not be more excited. And with that said, let's throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. This week, I am sitting down with Johnathon Grach. Jonathan, thanks so much for coming on Party of One.
Thanks for having me.
So, real quick, at the top of the show, why don't you take a moment to let the listeners at home know about any projects that you're working on, anything you might want them to know about, that sort of thing.
Well, I just finished to Cut to the Chase, and as a continuation of that project, I'm hiring some gamers, designers, and writers to create a bunch of scenarios for it, just so that cool. It can be sort of done a little more quickly. It's a pretty quick game anyway, but sometimes I've seen people get stuck on just creating their scenarios, and I thought it'd be interesting to see what type of scenarios different types of people come up with anyway. So yeah, that's the continuation of the Cut to the Chase project, and I'm looking forward to it. And if it goes well, I would like to kickstart the whole thing in the new year.
Awesome! That sounds really exciting. I'm super excited. I read the game, and we'll talk more thoroughly about the game. But why don't you take a moment to tell us about Cut to the Chase, as well as where players can find it right now?
Sure. Yep. So Cut to the Chase is a two-player game of chase, and it's meant to be sort of playable anywhere, anytime, relatively short. It takes about an hour, sometimes less, sometimes a little more. And the setting is to be sort of created on the spot. And there's question prompts that get you into it. And hopefully it gives you a feeling of that things are moving quickly and that there's going to be like big consequences in the end.
Feels like a chase, basically. You wanted to kind of capture that kind of big chase energy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, the initial, the first thing that kind of got me onto this was a TV show called Man Tracker. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but
I'm not.
It's basically a guy and a horse with a tracker helper chases down two typically city folk, thrown into the wilderness, and they have a goal, and basically the tracker is supposed to get them before they get there. So it sort of started with that, and then it sort of developed into, hey, like, how do you play out, any chase that sort of exists in our worlds as we know it.
I love it, and I love a good chase scene, and I think it's something that, like, I know a lot of games I've played have kind of struggled with, so I'm excited to kind of play this out and get a feel for how it recreates sort of the sort of narrative beats of a chase scene. I'm really kind of excited to get into it.
Yeah, awesome.
So why don't we go ahead and dive in?
Yeah, okay. So I'll throw it to you. Do you have any ideas in mind about sort of what you wanted to do with regards to a chase.
Yeah, I was thinking, I mean, obviously, I'm open to whatever, but I was definitely the two kind of avenues, or I guess kind of the three avenues that I was thinking of going, was like either something kind of slapsticky and cartoony, something kind of like action movie-esque, you know, cops and robbers, or like a car chase type situation, or straight up a horror movie with a monster chasing an impressionable teen.
Oh, an impression.
Those were kind of the three ideas. Do one of those ideas jump out at you?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so if we go like an action movie, if we start with something like that, an interesting idea that someone proposed to me, although I haven't had a chance to play it, was a time traveling chase, which is...
Oh my god, I really like time traveling chase. Can we do time traveling chase?
Yeah, okay. So there's one more thing that makes it even more intense. Chasing yourself.
Oh my goodness, yes, good.
Okay, so is that how we want to go with this?
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Okay, so I know there's a specific movie that does this, and I'm not sure. I know Bruce Willis is in it. I can't remember the other guy.
It's Looper with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
And so I'm not familiar with that concept. But I would like to avoid that if we can. It's something. So
I have an immediate pitch.
Okay.
My immediate pitch is that one of us, the younger version. There's a Justice League episode that I really like that kind of riffs on this a little bit, where like a younger version of a character causes a global catastrophe, and the older version has to like basically send another person back in time to stop it. And I would kind of love it if like basically kind of like an old supervillain has to go back in time and like chase down himself or herself or themselves before they cause this like global catastrophe.
So in the one universe, the catastrophe has happened, but in the other universe, okay.
It's like Terminators are on the, like, you know, we get that opening shot of Terminator, and then it's like, I can go back and fix this by not inventing the Terminator.
Right.
And then it's just old me is chasing down like past me throughout the time to be like, you have to stop this.
So is the, like, so that would make the young person the prey. Now, are they like an up and comer in the sort of the villain world or something like that, or like how are they sort of like what is it about them that like what are they? I guess what's their motivation?
I think that this is their big break. Like I think they've been down and out for a long time. Mm-hmm. And whatever plan they're like about to push the big red button on, is their like grand masterpiece, and they're like, this is what's finally gonna get people's attention and finally like put me on the Justice League's level of supervillainy.
Okay, and forget about what the big bad thing is, but does it work in that moment, or is it a failure from the beginning?
I feel like it's gotta work, right? I feel like it's gotta work almost too well, and like goes from I'm gonna rob a bank, or like I'm gonna like steal the world's supply of gold, to oh god, I've shut down all of the Earth's electricity.
Right. Okay. And I guess I just to clarify, but like time travel is a thing. Like it's something we both have access to, like hunter and prey, and that way we can sort of jump around and be chasing. But is it so common that, you know, it's widely used in the world, do you think? Or is it just less so than that?
What do you think is more interesting?
I think we can gloss over it in a lot of ways, but I think that it just depends on how it plays out. So I think we can just say that we have access to it. It could be one of our supervillain things, you know, that we're sort of aware and able to do this in a relatively easy way. But maybe it's not, you know, well known throughout the world.
Yeah, I'm kind of almost thinking, I mean, if we're thinking sort of super villainous, it would make a lot of sense if A, it was like our villainous power, and B, like maybe it was if we both have access to it and one of us has sort of caused this global catastrophe, maybe the catastrophe itself is time travel themed. You know, you step on a butterfly and the butterfly effect happens. So maybe it's that, like, I'm about to steal, like, something really valuable, but in doing so, like, it's going to set off this chain reaction that's going to, like, cause the apocalypse.
Yeah. Cool. So we have... okay, now what character do you want to play? Like, we've done a lot of building for the prey, and we'll have to do a little bit for the hunter, so they figure out, you know, maybe roughly what this apocalypse is, or why it's bad for, you know, me specifically, because, you know, we're not good, and bad things are sort of our thing. So why is it bad for me specifically, or the character?
Do you have a preference for hunter or prey? Because I could kind of go either way with it.
So sometimes. The way this is going to be interesting, because I've never really played something like this, because there's no reason for us to follow each other directly. It's kind of interesting. Like, neither of us has to take the exact same path to where the other person is. And I think, just to add on to the sort of, like, excitement of it, that it's time and space travel. So we
for sure. Yeah.
But something I've seen happen is sometimes the person who plays the hunter, they sort of start each round with their prompts and creating the setting. So sometimes I've seen, especially with new players, that playing the hunter is a little bit of a harder position to play. But I don't really think of you that way. So I could be wrong, but yeah, like, if you think that you might have trouble sort of just thinking of a situation on the fly that you want to drop the prey into, then maybe it'd be easier for you to be the prey itself. Otherwise, you know, it's wide open either way.
I think in that case, I think being the hunter might feel a little more comfortable for me, because I can kind of visualize how to sort of structure it as a chase, and how to make this sort of chase-esque.
Yeah, cool.
With the infinite nature of time and space. Like, I have a pretty clear idea of how I can see that working. So in that case, I think being the hunter is probably the more comfortable position to be in.
Yeah, that's perfect. I like that. Okay, so we're just kind of going through the prompts here. So we kind of covered the prey. What are you? And why are you on the run? Well, I think so. Why am I on the run? At some point, this is sort of interest in the whole way that time works, but we don't have to jump into that. So I was made aware that someone was on the hunt for me, and this was shortly after the effects started happening from our actions, and but not far from, like, the full extent of that. And so now, you know, someone's hunting after me, and I know that because of I just caught wind of it, and maybe
it's that, like, I appear, like, so if I can set a scene, I think I have a good idea, like a good way to start things off and kind of kickstart while you're on the run and get things moving in that regard.
Okay, so let's just I guess, okay, so I'm just going through some of the other questions, and I don't want to forget about them before we start playing. So the environment is everything and anything in this case. We're going to be jumping all over the place, so we don't really have to dive into that. And same with the one specific time period. And then, but we might want to touch, and maybe this will happen in your scenario. Who are you, and what is your connection to the prey? And I guess the main thing is, why are you chasing them? So maybe if you sort of answer all that. Something else, okay, so are there specific landmarks we want to include?
I feel like it's time travel, so I would like a lot of, like, I would like to capitalize that L in landmark.
Okay.
And sort of make it that, like, the landmarks that I want to include are kind of the big picture, like, if we're time traveling, then if we're time and space traveling, if we're Doctor Whoing it, I want to have every kind of scene anchored around a big, elaborate, overly ornate set piece.
Cool.
So it's not just that we're in a city, it is that we are in, you know, Paris, and the Eiffel Tower is right there.
Right. And is there anything time, place that has any special meaning to the characters. And it could be no, like it could just be, we don't have to use every question in here. Or we.
I think the only place that I would probably propose, because it's very kind of classic super villainish, is like our childhood home probably has some kind of significance.
Okay.
That feels very Doctor Doom screaming about his family.
Yeah. Okay. So our home, and do we want to just leave it at that, or do we want to get into what that place is?
I think we can kind of leave it at that for now.
And so I think I just know there's a time traveler after me. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to throw an end game for my character.
Okay.
And it's just since I know it's a time traveler chasing me, there's like a certain place where if I get to, I can negate your time traveling ability, mm-hmm. or your ability to follow me, I think. And that's my mm-hmm. end goal, is to get to this. Maybe it's like a man-made thing where it sort of distorts your time signature or something like that. And at mm-hmm. that point, I can't be followed anymore.
All right. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Okay. Now hit me with this. I guess. Are you? So there's different actions that each character can take, mm-hmm. and I honestly forget these regularly, and so I typically have to have these open for myself. Yeah, and then also there's kind of like a bit of a play sheet, and actually, I'm trying to think of which. Yeah, you may not have that exactly, or no, you'd have that. Anyway, there's just a place to track the separation, which I can do if you want.
Yeah, that's probably fine.
Okay, then when we roll, we'll just call out what we rolled. And are you you understand the rolling mechanism?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so just for everyone listening, if we roll a 6, we get a success. Basically, we get what we want, and each action has a different outcome for their success. And then if we roll a 4 or a 5 on 2d6, we get progress, and each action has its own progress result. And then if we roll a 3 or less on 2d6, then we get a failure, and again, each action has its own result from that failure.
So I guess the last thing is we should lay out like who we are, since we're both the same person, who we are. I know why I am chasing you. I'm chasing you because I think it's that you were in the process of stealing something immensely valuable. Let's go full science fiction apocalypse and imminent arrest, and say that like in the day after tomorrow, they have finally like isolated the God particle. They've finally like smashed together the Hadron Collider, and they've got evidence. They're about to create it, and you appear and steal it.
Right, because we can do that.
Yeah, and because you've leapt in from the past or the future or from next door, you leap in and steal it.
Yeah. Okay. And what is the beginning time? Are we talking like current, like our time now?
Yeah, I think it's like it's the superhero equivalent of like meanwhile.
Right. Yeah. So I steal this thing, and mm-hmm. But I think for this to make sense, I haven't used it yet because I don't know what this bad thing is going to happen, right?
Well, and I think yes, you've stolen it, you haven't used it yet, or even maybe it's even the act of stealing it is what like triggers this. So you appear to like snatch it or to like steal it with your cosmic grabber or your mechanical grabber claw, or however you steal this immensely radioactive particle.
Yeah.
and I appear and immediately tackle you because stealing it will unleash radiation across the world, turning people into radioactive super mutants. We will be tracked down by the Hero Society. The Hero Society will put us in super jail.
It's too much heat. It doesn't work. Yeah.
So I've tackled you to be like, no, you can't allow this, but because I am just sort of appearing and tackling you, you have been like, oh, well, there's another time traveler chasing me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and so that's the scene as it is then?
Okay. Yeah, okay. And that's kind of where we start off the chase, is we're both just leaping after each other as I'm like, no, stop, you need to talk, and you're like, get away from me, you creep.
It's funny if I don't recognize you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm like, I got to get out of there. This place is heavily guarded. So not only do I have to get away from you, but I have to get away in general. And so I think, I see a hallway and I need a couple of seconds just to sort of activate my time travel mechanism. And I jump in to, I jump and run down this hallway and I pull up my wrist device. That's my time travel thing. And then I type something in and there's the typical flash. And I've moved to, I think maybe I've gone back to like 1920s and somewhere in maybe New York, and I find myself in an alleyway, and I'm going to cut down that alleyway and basically hide out there. And I'm trying to not hide out, but try to obfuscate my trail. And I'm trying to just think fast, which is hopefully going to give you a penalty on your next roll.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm going to give that a go. And it was a fail. I rolled a 1 and a 3. And the results of that is I lose a resource. So I think I basically, I'm running down this alley, hoping to sort of become, lose your, get you to lose the trail. And I dropped something that really doesn't match the setting. It's like a cell phone, and and I keep running. I don't know it's there, but it's way out of place, and it totally gives me away.
Good, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and so I lose a resource for that. I only have 2 to start, so I'm down to 1, and then so you, I think you notice my you were able to detect the time signal and you follow it directly and find yourself in 1920s New York and
big shot of the recently constructed Empire State Building.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm glad you know what's in 1920s New York because I have no idea. Yeah, and yeah, so from the top of the Empire State Building, and you pan down, and then down the one of the main roads, and then to this alleyway that's just sort of cuts off the side of it. And yeah, the cell phone is sitting there, and you're like, duh, yeah. And you find yourself there, and I'm sort of I've taken off down the alley, out of your sight, but you're on the trail.
So I'm now gonna describe my action, choose an action, and roll for the outcome.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna plan ahead.
Awesome, yeah.
I'm gonna take a step back and say, what would I do in this situation? Because that is exactly what you will have done. Because it will have been what I would have done in this situation.
Right, and it's like the ultimate insight, right? Like, it's so
So I'm gonna roll. So yeah, I'm standing back, and I'm like, if I were being chased, what would I do?
Right.
And I rolled a 2 and a 5 on my plan ahead roll, which is a success, which is a progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is progress. So I've made progress, which means I get to lower separation by 1 at the start of Prey's next action.
Yeah.
And I lose 1 resource.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny. I find this happens often with me and other people that play, but we forget to use our resources to give ourselves the advantage. Like for me, I would have had success, and I would have had a progress, and you would have had success if we had both used them. I really like planned ahead, and so when you throw the scene in front of me next, it's you get to sort of add something to it, right? I think that's really cool. So we'll finish off the round, and it starts at 2 separation, and I didn't add any, and you didn't subtract any in the first round, so we're down to 1, and then it's going to be immediately -1 at the beginning of the next round.
All right.
So we're into round 2, and it's going into the next round, describing the next scene. It could be whatever, here, or you can just say that I've gone somewhere else or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. I'm losing a resource, so I think what happens is, like, I go to pull up my phone and realize that you dropped your phone, which means that I have never had my phone. Like, because I'm just like, what? Oh, of course. I'm now phoneless.
Yeah.
And because of that, like, I start to think, and I'm like, so who could I contact that I can't contact by phone, text, email? I know. And we stay in New York, but we get, like, a sweeping circle shot, and, like, people in suits walking by turn into people, like, the suits grow shoulder pads, hair gets very poofy, and the music changes from jazz to, like, underground hip-hop as we pan around into 1980s New York.
Okay.
Where you are going to meet one of your earliest confidants.
Nice.
I realize we never gave ourselves a name. May I propose Dr. Clocktower?
Dr. Clocktower. Okay, awesome. So, Dr. Clocktower, and we've had that name for a while.
Yeah, Dr. Clocktower is our supervillain name. You are going to meet... Tell me about the supervillain or evil confidant that you were going to meet, that you became friends with and you worked together in, like, the late 80s.
So, this would be, in the supervillain world, I think this would be... Miss Spider, and she's just you would think that it has something to do with climbing walls or whatever, but it's not that. It's just that she has her hands in everything, and it seems like she has 8 different hands doing different things. And so like, I'm coming to this person, and we've worked together before, and we have a good relationship, and I'm thinking, like, this person's going to help me out.
That's very good.
Yeah. And, but you planned ahead. So you got to her first, right? Mm-hmm. And what was that? So I'm like, okay, we'll just play it out. So, so I come to Miss Spider, and I'm like, I need you to cover my trail for me. And I don't know who's after me, but someone is, and I need you to do me this solid.
And I think that she, like, leans back. She's got the cigarette in the long holder.
Nice.
I'm picturing a very Debbie Harry aesthetic, because we're in the 80s in New York.
Yeah.
So she's very ephemeral as she kind of leans back, cigarette in the big tube, and she pulls back. Spiders in mythology are tricksters, and to try and fool a trickster is bold, I'll give you that, foolish, but bold. At which point, we pan over slightly, at which point we flash back moments beforehand to me appearing in Miss Spider's lair, and being like, here's the situation. Someone has stolen my wrist-mounted time teleporter.
Nice.
I suspect that they will be appearing to you shortly and trying to steal my identity. Oh. You cannot believe them. No matter what you do, you cannot believe them for what has happened. So we flash back. He's like, so yes, you are the young identity thief that is trying to catfish my good friend, Dr. Clocktower, yes?
What? No, it's me.
Oh, yes, it's me. It's Dr. Clocktower. Of course, of course. I appreciate you committing to the lie.
Yeah, and I think at this point, I'm like, no, I can't, and I'm sort of picturing what's happening here, and then so I'm looking to get out, and I think, I say, I can't believe he got on to me so quickly, and I think maybe I still am not sure that it's me following me, and but time travel is a thing that not a lot of people have, and so I bolt away, and I'm trying to outrun you now. And I'm really worried that you sort of know what I'm about, and so this is just like a panicked, like I gotta run, and so I think what at least on what's my mind to do is do like a series of like quick jumps through multiple places and times just to sort of get ahead, and actually sure. I think I'm gonna call this instead of I was going to do outrun, but I'm going to do mislead. And so, I'm going to do multiple time jumps through multiple places in an attempt to mislead you and hopefully have you lose my trail.
I like it.
Yeah,
I love it.
And I think that I have this device that I invented that sort of, it's like a randomizer. And it's just like, it's to avoid predictability. And so I use this device to help me to help avoid you following. So I'm going to call that my resource to do to this to give me a +1. And roll. Okay, I rolled a 4, so 5, so progress. In this case, mislead, so I get a +1 separation. The hunter's misled, but you get +1 on your next roll. Saying I didn't quite do a good enough job, so you get a little advantage on when you roll.
I know how you think because it's how I think.
Yeah, exactly. And then so you see young me jumping through. I think it's like it goes from New York to like Arctic Canada in but it's in the future, and there's like way less sea ice, and there's like
it's water world. It's Kevin Costner's water world.
There's like a metropolis up in the northern Canada, and then it's like jump back in time to ancient Egypt, of course, because we need to see the pyramids being built, and then it's jump forward in time, and it's like the French Revolution, and then. I think we leave it where you finally follow me to, where you're kind of like, I think I'm getting there, and it's I think it's in Japan in I'm not sure I'm going to get the time frame right, but I'm thinking like samurais and feudal rule. So like I think that's around the 1800s or something like that.
Feudal Japan.
Yeah,
sure.
Feudal Japan. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and then so that's where you find yourself, sort of, and you're close to getting back on track. But yeah, you find yourself there. And I think maybe more specifically, you're in on a mountainside and sort of overlooking a lush green valley, and you're and in your mind you're like, I know he came through here. Just where did he go?
I look around and I'm like, this is too familiar. I know this valley too well. I spent time in this valley. And I think what I'm doing, I've been misled, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've spent a lot. I think what happens is, like, if we're leaning into this and we're Doctor Whoing it up, I think what has happened is, like, I have inadvertently, like, had to solve, like, minor crimes and things in all of the places that I've gone to. So we've sort of filled in sort of the mid-season episodes of our little chase with me being like, now I'm in France. Guess I have to raid the Bastille. And so, like, I've been slowed down by virtue of I've had to, like, fix history in a lot of individual ways.
Yeah.
So now I have to find the trail again. I'm back. I'm in Japan. I am looking around. I am utterly lost. I am exhausted. My superhero outfit is burned up. You know, my cape is fringed at the edges, or singed at the edges. And I'm just trying to close my eyes and say, where did I go from here? And so, like, it's a lot of me wandering through villages and, like, you know, trying to keep my head low, dressing in period clothing and, like, walking around like, where could I have gone? And then I think I have my wrist-mounted teleportation device. I can check its use records and see where like where it has been leapt to recently, because technically it is the same device, so the use records will be the same.
Yep.
So I look at it, and that is how I'm going to make up for I'm going to add a +1 to that, which gives me a total of a +2.
Oh, sorry. There's no. I should have been clear. There's no stacking.
Okay,
but you don't.
Then I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Then I'm not gonna worry about my wrist-mounted teleporter. I'll save that for a later chase.
Yeah.
So since I have a +1, I got a 5 and a 2, which means I get a 6, which means I have success. I am back on track.
You betcha.
I think. So I think what happens is I see, like, I think I hear tell of a robbery, like some precious artifact has been stolen, and I think back and I'm like, oh yeah, I do own that. I do own that vase. That is a thing that's in my apartment. That was probably me.
Yeah. Okay. And so the way this goes, we started at 2 separation, and even with the me gaining a separation there in the second round, we're down to 0 by the end of this round.
Okay.
And so the next scene is a clash. So round 3 starts, and now all the rounds are just clashes until you catch me. Or if in the 4th round I get away, then I'm gone.
Okay.
So now we're in the clash scene in round 3 here. And so now, so yeah, you've figured it out. You know where I'm going to be. Mm-hmm. So where do we come face to face?
I think we come face to face in, I think it's going to be an alien spaceship, because we're going time and space, and I think that's like a cool space, like real Star Warsing it up, right?
Yeah.
Like they're in the big bridge of a ship. You've like teleported here because you're like, no one will think to find me here.
Yeah.
Time is easy. Space is much trickier.
Yeah.
And then I step out of the shadows and say, like, it's a brilliant move. It's a shame you're dealing with a brilliant opponent.
And then I realize, and I'm like, of course, it had to be you. But why? We got it. We've come so close. And really, I don't care why. I'm just trying to distract you. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to either get you to monologue or to just sort of like take your eyes off me for a split second so I can jump elsewhere.
And like I start to monologue, but as I'm monologuing, I'm like fiddling with my wrist-mounted device to basically try and like jam your signal.
Right. Yeah.
Since we're both just it's both of us are just plans within plans within schemes, and I love it.
Totally. Okay. And on this roll, we get go highest against highest, and then lowest against lowest, and a tie goes to me. A tie on both of them goes to me.
Okay.
Okay, so... Okay, I got a 6.
I got a 5.
Okay, so I am able to do what I need to for this round. And and so your monologue, and I'm like, yes, and I feel like, I got you distracted enough, but then I see you start going for your risk control device, and I'm like, oh no, he's trying to block me, and I'm like, no, like, this isn't gonna happen, and I'm able to get out of there, and like the next step is I jump to like Jurassic era dinosaurs and everything. So it's middle of the jungle, and as I look around, there's various dinosaurs, and it's that. But
yeah,
I don't lose you. It's we just jump right into another clash.
Yeah, I think what happens is I'm fiddling with my wrist-mounted device, and like when you hit it, like I'm not quite done yet, but it has linked our devices enough that I immediately appear there as well.
Right.
Shaken, unnerved, and misled for sure, but like, huh? Very tricky, old friend.
And I kind of chuckle too, and it's like, and I make a comment about, I think you're the old one here.
A fair point.
Yeah, and in this case, yeah, I'm just like, I know my next place to go, and I thought that I would have more distance between us before I got there, but no, and I feel like to get where I need to go, the only way to do that is to go through you or take you out, and so like my idea is just to tackle you, knock you out, whatever I can do.
And I think as you're doing that, I have taken out like a stun ray, and I'm bringing, like, you won't remember this. It will be fine. You'll wake up in your bed having failed to steal the God particle. It'll be fine. I promise.
Perfect. All right, one more roll here. Okay, I got a 5.
I got a 6.
Okay, so you winner. And in this case, you get the conclusion. That's what you win.
And I think what happens is, I think like we fight, and like the stun ray goes wild. It falls into a tar pit. But we're fighting and we're clashing over wristbands, and as we're wrestling, we start the wrist control mechanisms start going wild, and we start like super quick flashing through a montage of every other historical set that we've got, every set in the back lot that we're trying to run through, and we finally like crash into our childhood home, where I'm just like, look at this, listen to me. You can't do this. All I need is a moment to talk to you, criminal mastermind to criminal mastermind.
And so I'm like, fine, talk. You know how important this is. I don't understand what you could have to say that would change this, but talk.
I know that this is our big break, but understand that if you take that particle, imagine an entire planet of irradiated, super-powered beings that could crush this device in their hands. Imagine an apocalypse. Imagine a planet of Godzillas. Of all sizes, of small, large, everywhere in between. Do you think one little time travel device is going to help us stand out in that? Because I can tell you from experience that you are outmatched and outgunned in the future.
And, yeah. I'm not sure I buy it. in my mind, it's just, when you can't see that. And I think to myself, knowing the position that I'm in, that I can't go forward with this as it is. And I've lost all ability to obtain this thing now.
And I think as that's happening, I'm starting to burn away as the future is now no longer coming. And I'm like, there will be 1 million jobs. Remember this. 47, 18, 3. You'll get your big break. You'll reap in your millions and you will change the face of supervillainy. 47, 18, 3.
And as you're fading away, I'm repeating it. 47, 18, 3. Pretty pissed off at the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think like the last thing that we see as you kind of flash back, the botched, the media is making a big deal about like the botched robbery of the God particle. And then in lighter news, the Queen of England has announced the moving of an incredible treasure. The world's largest diamond is being moved into a top secret bank vault somewhere in London. An undisclosed location.
And the numbers start clicking and my brain starts whirring. We fade out, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the closing notice. It's just, is we get that news report and then we get a shot of a close up on your eyes and you just hear that echo of like, you will have your moment. There will be other jobs.
Awesome.
And that's game.
Awesome.
That was super, super fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. It's sort of, I don't know. I don't know. I liked it. I should ask you, what did you think of it?
I had a ton of fun. I like the way that it has a lot of options, and I like the way that it sort of it captures that feeling of like closing in on each other. Mm-hmm. That sort of like intensity of like oncoming conflict. I really like the way that it plays that up, and I think it's a tight little game, and I can really actually see myself playing this on top of other games because it's easy enough to kind of learn and teach that like I could see dropping this into like a game of Dungeon World or something like that, where I'm just like, okay, you're gonna chase this thing, we're gonna bust this out.
Yeah, it's exciting to me. To be honest, and this is my first essentially complete game design, and it's exciting to me when people are excited or happy or they had a good play, but it's also exciting to me when I play another game and it works again. Like that seems like a really weird thing to say, but like it actually is a game and it works. But
I know that feeling very, very well.
Yeah, so and this was a lot of fun, and I'm happy to have done this.
I'm super happy.
Yeah, and we didn't really talk about this I kind of you asked me to say where you could find it, and then I kind of ignored that question. But
that's all fun. It's all good.
Yeah, it's available in You and I Role Playing Games for Two, which you can currently find on DriveThruRPG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a great collection of two-player role-playing games that I am a huge supporter of. This is one of many of the games that you'll be hearing on the show in the near future. And so real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you online?
I don't have a lot of places. You can check out my stuff at mongreltabletopgames.com or at mongrelgames on Twitter. And I'm somewhat active on Twitter, although not crazy.
Sure. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a delight. And now I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, Past Me. And thanks again to Jonathan for coming onto the show. That game was a delight. Be sure to check out Cut to the Chase, as well as all of the other killer role-playing games. I've said killer like 14 times in this episode, but I don't care. Check out all of the amazing games available in the UNI Two-Player Games Anthology, a link to which can be found in the show notes. Also, be sure to follow Jonathan on Twitter at MongrelGames. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod. Then like the show at Facebook.com/Party of One Podcast. And join our Discord community at bit.ly/Party of One Discord. If you enjoy the show, consider leaving us a nice iTunes review. iTunes reviews are really, really helpful in boosting our signal and helping us find new listeners and do bigger, better, and cooler things. Speaking of iTunes reviews, after hearing about some other podcasts doing similar things, most notably Autonomic, which on an unrelated note is spectacular and you should be listening to it. But anyway, I'm trying something new, which is content rewards for iTunes reviews. Basically, if you've been thinking about an iTunes review and you haven't just gotten around to it yet, allow me to encourage you by saying we are currently at 31 iTunes reviews, looking at my numbers right now. If we get to 50 of them, we will do an episode live on Twitch with audience participation. It'll be a big, cool thing, and I hope that you'll check it out. You can also leave us some love on social media, or just tell a friend about the show, anything to help us grow bigger and do bigger, better, and cooler things. If you enjoy the show and want to help support me personally and all the podcasting, game design, and other weird things that I do, you can check out patreon.com/JeffStormer, get early access to podcasts and games, check out community help resources, all sorts of cool stuff. And if you listened to the episode and thought, God, I just wish I had more Jeff Stormer in my day, well, good news. Let me tell you about All My Fantasy Children. All My Fantasy Children is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast powered by you. Every week, my best friend Aaron Catano Saez and I take a listener-submitted prompt and spin it into an original fantasy character, populating a shared universe one story at a time. New episodes drop Fridays at allmyfantasychildren.com. Party of One is, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran, featuring the D&D Sluggers. If you're interested in coming on the show or about inquiring about advertising opportunities, shoot me an email at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And that's it for me. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.